LennyCast.
Welcome back. I'm still Viviana and this is still my bazaar. Ideas, memories, travels, music, movies, books, confusion, dust, cat hair. On the occasion of March 8th, International Women's Day, I decided to dedicate this bazaar to a woman who, last year, despite herself, ended up in newspapers all over the world, becoming an example for all of us, to the point that the American magazine Time declared her Woman of the Year 2025. I'm talking about Gisele Pelicot, who for 10 years was drugged and raped by her husband and dozens of strangers that her husband recruited online on a dating site. Gisele Pelicot, as Time writes, is an ordinary woman who acted in an extraordinary way in the face of a personal tragedy. Her decision to refuse a closed-door trial for the man who had raped her for years, and thus giving up her right to anonymity, made her a world heroine. Gisele's message was powerful. This trial helps women understand that the shame is not ours, it's theirs. Gisele Pelicot, the daughter of a French soldier, was born on December 7, 1952 in the town of Billingen, in the southern part of West Germany. She moved to France at the age of 5. In 1971, she met her future husband Dominique Pelicot, whom she married in 1973. The couple settled in the suburbs of Paris in Vigormorne and had 3 children, David, Caroline and Florian. The Pelicot couple's life had its ups and downs. In the 1980s, they separated for a short time before reconciling, and in 2001 they divorced for financial reasons. While Gisele made a career in the administration of the state electricity company, Dominic worked as an electrician, then as a real estate agent, and started a series of businesses that all failed. The former couple continued to live together and remarried in 2007. In 2010, Pelicot was arrested for the first time for filming upskirts of women in a shopping mall in the Paris region using a hidden camera. However, he was released after paying a fine of only €100, and Gisele did not find out what had happened. In 2013, after retiring, the Pelicots moved to Mazan in Provence, where their children and grandchildren joined them for the holidays. The Pelicot family's life was turned upside down in 2020. When in September Dominic was once again caught filming upskirts of strangers in a local supermarket. Unlike the first time, the women filmed filed complaints and the police began investigating him. The man is linked to 2 sexual assaults that took place against women in 1991 and 1999. Both were young real estate agents who were lured to empty houses with fake job appointments, stunned with ether and raped. In the first case, the violence ended brutally with the murder of the victim. Certain elements that recur in both cases led investigators to attribute the violence to Pelicot, who, caught by DNA testing, admitted to the sexual assault in 1999, but denied the rape and murder in 1991. Thanks to this investigation, the police gained access to Pelicot's computer and opened the floodgates on the horror. Dozens and dozens of videos in which about 100 men abused Gisele, who was rendered incapacitated by massive doses of tranquilizers. But in addition to the videos, the police discovered hundreds of photos taken of unsuspecting women, including his daughter Caroline, filmed naked while sleeping. When the couple was still living in the Paris area, the doctor prescribed Gisele a tranquilizer and her husband began hiding the drug in her food and drinks in order to abuse her. After moving to Mons, Dominic escalated the violence and began inviting men he contacted online to abuse his wife while she was on drugs. Gisele began to suffer from memory lapses. She feared she had Alzheimer's or a brain tumor, but medical tests came back negative. At one point, she even became suspicious and on one occasion asked her husband if he was drugging her, but he denied it and she believed him. On November 2, 2020, the Pelicot couple were called to the police station. After watching videos of his abuse, Gisele declared, "Everything collapsed, everything I had built in 50 years. Dominic was arrested. Between his arrest in September and his taking into custody on November 2, he incredibly continued to invite strangers to rape his wife. Gisele leaves the marital home, begins divorce proceedings, and will not see her ex-husband again until the trial. The trial of Dominic Pelicot and 50 other men identified from computer images begins in Avignon in September 2024. As a rape victim, Gisele is entitled to anonymity and a closed trial, but she waives her right and insists on an open trial in order to raise awareness about drug-facilitated sexual assault and chemical bondage and to encourage other victims of sexual crimes to speak out. She successfully challenges the judge's initial decision to exclude the public from the courtroom when the videos of her rape are shown. The shame is on them, Gisele says of the men accused of raping her. I am lucky to have the evidence, Gisele said, referring to the videos. I have the evidence, which is very rare, so I have to go through all this to represent all the victims. And when describing her as courageous, Gisele says, I say it's not courage, but will and determination to change society. On December 19, 2024, Dominic is convicted of aggravated rape and sentenced to a maximum of 20 years. Of the remaining 50 co-defendants, 49 are found guilty of committing aggravated rape, attempted rape or sexual assault against Gisele and are sentenced to prison terms ranging from 3 to 15 years. One man was found guilty of drugging and raping his wife together with Dominic, but he was not charged with committing any crime against Gisele. The ages of those convicted range from 26 to 74. They are often married or engaged, many are fathers, some have previous convictions. Their professions are diverse. Office workers, blue-collar workers, journalists, craftsmen, firefighters, military personnel. Many have repeated the violence against Gisele from 2 to 6 times, all but one of whom live within a 10 kilometers radius of Mawson. 17 of those convicted have filed an appeal. Dominic is not among them. Speaking after the trial on December 19, Gisele said, When I started on September 2, I wanted to make sure that society could actually see what was happening, and I have never regretted that decision. I now have faith in our collective ability to shape a future where all women, men, can live together in harmony, with respect and mutual understanding. Gisele's decision to waive her anonymity and have the trial held in public has brought her widespread support. Every day, Gisele left the courthouse to applause from those gathered outside. Her image appeared on street art and walls were plastered around the courthouse. An Australian organization, the Australian Older Women's Network, which raises awareness of sexual assault against older women, sent Gisele a scarf made by Aboriginal women that Gisele has worn frequently to court. Speaking through her lawyer, Gisele said she was touched by the gift and the bond that unites women around the world in standing up against violence against them. Following the verdict, supporters thanked Gisele for her courage and celebrated the sentence pronounced against her ex-husband. Gisele was also thanked by French President Emmanuel Macron for her dignity and courage, and was applauded on X by foreign leaders, including former German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. On December 20, the day after the verdicts, Gisele made headlines across Europe. On the same day, British journalist Catherine Meyer launched a petition calling for Gisele to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. On January 2, Gisele was named Personality of the Year in a French opinion poll. The violence suffered by Gisele Pelicot, who is now 72 and has shared most of her life with her husband, as well as 3 children and 7 grandchildren, is shocking. None of the defendants ever thought of stopping or reporting the violence. No one questioned Gisele's consent. Her husband's presence was enough for them, as if Gisele were a borrowed object and not a person with thought and free will. Reading the excerpts of the statements made by the men who abused her, some of whom even said they didn't realize they had raped her, one wonders how much the possibility of abusing a non-consenting and unconscious body counted. The reason Gisele Pelicot chose to have the trial held in public was to finally acquire a voice to say, I exist. She spoke out with all her strength after watching the videos filmed by her husband during his repeated rapes. She could have avoided doing so, she could have treated the matter as a private matter, and yet she felt from the depths in which she lived and still lives, to refer to many others like her, so that they would not feel alone, and in not feeling alone, she too would be freed from isolation. Gisele's story shocked France and beyond. Gisele's story seems like one of those stories destined to rewrite the laws, to assign a before and after, but only time will tell if this will be the case, or if, once the emotional wave subsides, Gisele's name will end up in oblivion. After all, even in our country, Julia Chiquetin's femicide seemed to have marked a turning point, but in the months that followed, men continued to kill their partners or ex-partners at a rate of 1 every 3 days. Gisele Pelicot has become a symbol in spite of herself, and we should all be grateful to her for not hiding, for not looking down, for reminding the world of the difference between suffering violence and inflicting violence. Do you know women who have not suffered at least one form of harassment at least once in their lives? I don't. But this social emergency has always been passed off to us as normal, natural, inevitable. It is not so. Let's learn to report, to protest, to rebel. Let's always learn to never be ashamed.
LennyCast.